Hi, so it's time for Wednesday night story time. So let's get going.
May 19th, 1903, the University Club, San Francisco, California. I bet $50 no one can ride in a horseless buggy across America, says a man. Horatio Jackson sits up straight. Of course it can be done, he thinks. Those new automobiles can do anything. I bet someone can do it, he says. I'll drive from California to New York in less than 3 months. The wager is on. As the 20th century began, horses pulling carriages ruled the road. Most people didn't think autos would ever replace them. Jackson wants to prove the automobile is the country's future. Jackson hires a mechanic named Crocker, buys a used 1903 Winton auto, and he's on his way. He calls his automobile the Vermont, after the state where he lives. May 23rd, San Francisco, California. Goodbye, good luck, be careful, shouts Jackson's wife, Bertha, who will be returning to Vermont by train. Don't worry, my dear, Jackson pats the car. This trusty machine will get us there with no troubles at all. Toot, toot. About 15 miles later, bump, 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 kaplooey! Just a momentary delay, says Jackson. He whistles and kicks the other tires. The other wheels are fine. The men travel on through California. They drive through purple fields of lupine. In the Sacramento Valley, the auto makes rugged ruts through fruit orchards. Then, in the Sierras, the Vermont twists and turns over mountains with steep, narrow roads. The car skids and slips on sandy, rocky ledges. Scary. June 6th, to the SL Ranch, Oregon. Next day, the long, dangerous journey of the Oregon desert begins. It's about 300 miles of dry, parched land. Will they run out of water? Will they break down? Will they die in the desert? The engine chokes, plugged with desert dust. Crocker tries to restart it. New batteries don't work. From 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, they wait. The sun blazes. They are hot and thirsty and tired and weak. Wait, a man on horseback appears in the distance. Jackson fires his gun. A cowboy gallops over and lassos the car. He pulls it to a small house. Crocker works on the auto. The rancher offers his attic for the night. What's that? On the side of the road. A man with a bulldog. The dog's name is Bud. The man sells Bud to Jackson for $15. Jackson gets an unexpected passenger and a good friend. Bud rides in front and studies the road. Now, the car isn't the only thing that's attracting attention. The goggles Bud wears to keep the dust and dirt out of his eyes even make a bulldog look cute. That night, all three sleep under the car. Bud snuggles up next to Jackson's sleeping bag for warmth. June 20th, lost near Green River, Wyoming. Rain. Not just rain, but rain. The storm washes out the road. The Vermont sinks into the mud. They cut sagebrush and place it in front of the tires for traction. Using a block and tackle, they haul the car out of the sticky, oozy muck. 1, 2, 3! Oof! 1, 2, 3! Oof! June 21st, to Rock Springs, Wyoming. Jackson and Crocker are lost. The air is full of mosquitoes. It's 36 hours since their last meal. Hunger wears at them. Jackson looks at Bud. Crocker looks at Bud. Bud licks them both. Finally, a friendly sheep herder feeds them and shows them the railroad tracks. They follow the tracks toward Rock Springs. The train brings a circus into Rock Springs. People think the Vermont is part of the show. June 23rd, Rawlins, Wyoming. A huge crowd greets them. Ladies ooh and ah over Bud. Children play fetch with him. They scratch his ears and his back. Bud stretches and croons and hams it up. Men stroke, say what a fine animal he is. Bud agrees. July 7th, to Nebraska. Rain pelts Jackson, Crocker, and Bud. Lightning flashes. Thunder roars. Mud pulls the car into the tops of the wheels. The car is stuck 18 times in one day. Dripping, bedraggled, and drenched, sopping, soggy, and soaked. They detour north to find dry roads. July 12th, Omaha, Nebraska. Smack! Jackson rubs his head. Zap! Something stings his face. Ping! Ping! What is hitting the car? Crocker swats the air. It's raining. Not water, but flying grasshoppers. They lie so thick on the road that the tires can't tread. The Vermont stops. Insects pelt them like green hail. People drive for miles to see the fantastic machine. Lordy, Harold, you ever seen such a thing? Hey, Ma, a devil wagon. People sit in trees for a good view. A newspaper reports the Vermont whizzing through town nonstop at the breakneck speed of 40 miles per hour. That's no doubt an exaggeration, since a Winton's max was closer to 30. July 17th, Chicago, Illinois. Out of the small towns. A big-time city. Crowds gather around the Vermont. City officials shake the driver's hands. Reporters clamor about. Cameras flash. What was your most exciting adventure? Did you think you'd make it this far? Smile. They'd spend the night in a real bed in a real hotel. Next morning, about to leave, where's Bud? People everywhere, but no Bud. They search over, under, there, with the ladies in the fine hats. Bud, always the show-off, wandered where he'd get the most attention. July 20th, Cleveland, Ohio. Winton Company, based in Cleveland, sees an opportunity for glory. It holds a banquet in Jackson's honor. Tables piled high with food stretched before the hungry and tired travelers. After the meager pickings of their journey, they've gone to feasting heaven. A Winton boss says to his workers, "Boys, wash their car and make it look respectable." Jackson refuses, saying, "I want mud from every state on this automobile." July 21st, to Buffalo, New York. The Vermont covers 200 miles in 2 days. They are so close to New York City that they push on straight through the night. The twinkling stars and the moon above seem to cheer them on. In the White House, President Teddy Roosevelt reads newspapers reporting their progress. July 21st, Peekskill, New York. A little before 5 o'clock in the morning, they make what will be their final tire repair by the lamplight's soft glow. Jackson's wife, Bertha, arrives with friends and reporters. They hang a banner on the Vermont, first across the continent, San Francisco to New York. July 26th, New York City. It's 4:30 in the morning. Jackson, Crocker, and Bud drive the Vermont down 5th Avenue. The car is covered with mud. Honk, honk. 63 days, 12 hours, and 30 minutes. About 5,600 miles of what pass for roads. About 800 gallons of gas. $8,000 of Jackson's own money. All for a $50 bet that he never bothered to collect. Afterward, the story of Jackson and Bud. The year 1903 was a big year for firsts in the United States. The Wright brothers invented the first flight-powered airplane. The first transatlantic cable was laid. The first wireless radio messages were sent to Europe, and Jackson, Crocker, and Bud completed the nation's first cross-country road trip. Horatio Nelson Jackson was a doctor from Burlington, Vermont. He married Bertha Richardson Wells in 1899. Bertha was the daughter of one of the wealthiest businessmen in Vermont. At the time of the couple's 1903 visit to San Francisco, his wife had come into her inheritance, and Jackson had given up his medical practice. So he had the funds and the freedom to make this cross-country trip. The 1903 Winton, for which Jackson paid $3,000, already had 1,000 miles, 1,609 kilometers, on it. In today's dollars, the car would cost $73,000. The Winton could attain a top speed of 30 miles, 48 kilometers, per hour. Jackson hired Swell J. Crocker as his mechanic and co-driver. Crocker had been a professional bike racer in Tacoma, Washington, and was working in a San Francisco factory. Optimistic Jackson, down-to-earth Crocker, and lovable Bud's exciting and humorous adventure lasted 63 days and took them over 5,600 miles, 9,012 kilometers, of roads, such as they were at the time. There were only 150 miles, 240 kilometers, of paved roads in the entire United States. It would be another 20 years before paved roads, the Lincoln Highway, would connect San Francisco and New York. There were no maps or road signs, and drivers often needed directions from locals to follow the roads. In the early 1900s, gas stations did not exist. Cars ran on fuel intended for stoves and farm machinery, which could be purchased at a general store. Unbeknownst to Jackson and Crocker, on June 20th, 1903, professional driver Tom Fetch and the automobile magazine reporter Marius Crarup began a cross-country trip sponsored by Packard Motor Car Company. On July 6th of the same year, Lester Whitman and Eugene Hammond, both well-qualified mechanics, joined what was becoming a cross-country contest, driving an Oldsmobile runabout. Which of the three automobiles won the unofficial race? In the end, the Vermont made it to New York City first in 63 days, 12 hours, and 30 minutes, making their journey the nation's first successful cross-country road trip. but Fetch and Crawrup completed their trip in a day and a half less. Whitman and Hammond were out of the running in both categories, being the last to arrive and logging a total time of 72 days, 21 hours, and 30 minutes. At the advanced age of 45, Jackson insisted upon enlisting in World War I, 1914 to 1918, as a battlefield surgeon. Badly wounded at the Battle of Argonne in France, he returned to Vermont as a hero, having received the United States Distinguished Service Cross and France's Croix de Guerre medal. Swall Crocker used his temporary fame to look for sponsorship for an auto tour. He eventually made a tour of Europe. Suffering from a nervous condition and general ill health, he died in his hometown of Tacoma, Washington, at the age of 32. Bud joined the Jacksons and their two daughters for a long and happy life as their family dog. In 1944, Jackson donated the Vermont, his scrapbook, and Bud's goggles to the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., where they are still on display. Horatio Nelson Jackson died in 1955 at the age of 82.
So, what did you think of that story about the first trip across the United States? Says that they went 5,600 miles and only 150 miles of it was paved. Did you see those wooden wheels? They didn't have tires like we have with rubber. They had wooden wheels and no paved roads. And it took them 63 days. And that year was, they had no road signs and they didn't have gas stations. So they filled up, they used fuel that was used for stoves and stuff. So, and the maximum speed was a whole 30 miles an hour. So the other interesting parts I thought was that they said that people sat in trees to see them. And one of the comments is that it was a double machine. So I know we are so used to cars and automobiles, but that was something really, really different back then, and everybody was using horse and buggy. So I thought it was an amusing story. And we're going to enjoy another story. So this story is, well, this is actually nonfiction. It's called Engineering Wonders. It's about smart cars. So let's take a look at this. So engineering cars. When it comes to the world of automobiles, variety is mind-boggling. From sedans and sport utility vehicles to compact cars and pickup trucks, the options seem endless. Across the auto industry, engineers are buzzing about a type of car that has only grown more popular over the past 20 years, the smart car. What is the difference between a traditional car and a smart car? The answer lies in advanced technology. Smart cars do more than just drive. Some use electricity to power their engines, others drive all by themselves without drivers. Can you believe it? These are truly the cars of the future. Traditional car gets a driver and passenger wherever they need to go. But smart cars can do more. They're designed to solve common problems. One of these problems is environmental impact. Cars can pollute our world. How do they do this? A traditional car or truck has an engine that runs on gasoline. During rush hour, the emissions pouring out of all those cars can create a smelly fog of pollution. When the car burns gasoline, harmful substances are released into the air. The substances hurt our bodies, but they also help to heat up our planet's atmosphere. Cars contribute to global warming. The rising temperature of Earth's atmosphere, which changes weather patterns. With so many cars on the road, engineers have been working hard to find smart alternatives. Doesn't mean that we all need to switch to bicycles. Many of the latest smart cars use electricity and other solutions to be much more environmentally friendly. They are also creating cars that help us combat overcrowding, car accidents, cost, and other problems. The wide open road of the West are tempting for those who love to drive. Many people would hate to give up their cars, even if it could help the environment. So, need directions? Ask your smart car. Since the 1990s, global positioning systems, GPS, have become popular features in cars. They help drivers and passengers navigate while on the road. A smart car often has its own system or is able to communicate easily with phone technology. Dreaming up a smart car. The world's first cars were created in the 1880s. That's less than 150 years ago. Cars haven't been around very long, but they've certainly made huge strides in their design and engineering. Most people credit Carl Benz, a German inventor, as the creator of the first car. So take a look at this first car. Look at those wheels, and they're also, those look like spokes and tiny metal rims. Looks more like bicycle wheels, but only huge bicycle wheels. Carl Benz invented many of the parts we use in cars today, including the spark plug, ignition, carburetor, clutch, and gear shift, and the other parts. The very first cars with their huge, thin wheels look a little like bicycles. The motor wagon was built in 1885. Now, a car that hits the automobile market has an entire team of professionals working in all aspects of the vehicle. The automobile designers figure out what a car should look like, while automotive engineers focus on the technical aspects of how the car will run. An automotive engineer might work on a car's mechanics, performance, safety features, software, electronics, and so much more. Think about the cars you see on the road. Some are produced by Ford or Chevrolet, others by Kia or BMW. The list of car manufacturers is long. Each of these companies produce new and updated car models every year. Look at all these logos, nameplates. So look at the inside. Ooh. The consumer tastes change. Car companies continue to dream of new and improved designs. Over the past couple of decades, those designs have become smarter and smarter. Why are the cars getting smarter? Because humans are getting smarter about what we need and want in cars to do. When consumers demand cars that produce less pollution, drive safer, or fit into smaller spaces, automobile designers and engineers respond by creating new cars. These fresh designs can make their debut at annual auto shows that are scheduled around the world. Look at this car. Luxury sports cars like this Mercedes-Benz EQ Silver Aero are always a hit at auto shows. Their advanced technology and sleek designs are meant to surprise and stun the crowds. Big auto shows in cities like here in Detroit, New York City, Chicago, Tokyo, Paris give people a glimpse into the future of automobiles. Smart cars are often on display at the shows, even if they won't be available to the public for a few years. These shows give attendees an inside look at the future of car design and engineering. Call it Xi. So that's a police car. It's an electric police car. Auto shows offer practical solutions too. At a car show in Frankfurt, Germany, a tiny electric police car is on display. So, smart design and engineering. So, what do the smart cars of the future look like? Designs that have emerged over the last few years are nothing short of incredible. Subcompact cars, autonomous cars, electric cars, and connected cars are four of the smart car designs that are pulling ahead of the pack. Subcompact car is similar to what you might imagine. It's a very, very small car. Small cars are called compact cars, but subcompacts are even smaller. They are cute, efficient, and perfect for driving in the city. They can change lanes quickly, make parallel parking a breeze, and use significantly less fuel than traditional cars. And they're often able to run on electric power. Look, there's a compact and a subcompact. It's really small. This subcompact car is parked next to a traditional vehicle. It's almost half the size. This allows it to fit into smaller parking spaces and use less fuels. Wow. Almost half the size. Wow. Tiny cars, huge demand. The most popular subcompact cars include the Honda Fit, Ford Fiesta, and Toyota Yaris. They are usually much cheaper than traditional cars or sedans, often about $18,000 for a brand new vehicle. The Honda Fit is a popular choice in the subcompact category due to its small size and small price tag. How do you use electricity to power a vehicle? Well, you plug it in a few hours before driving more than 100 miles through the city. As it zips along the road, there aren't the usual gases and pollutants coughing out the back of the car. It's quiet, clean, and efficient. See, plug it in. Engineers actually developed the first electric cars back in the 1800s, but they quickly became overshadowed by gasoline-powered cars. Since the 1990s, environmental worries have pushed more and more car buyers to consider electric vehicles, especially in the subcompact category. Hybrid cars, such as the Toyota Prius, have also become popular. These run on a combination of gasoline and electric. You can often tell a hybrid by the logo on its body. You might also be able to pick out a hybrid by its lack of noise and emissions. No noise, and it's not as so this is a four-cycle Model T Ford 1908. Electric cars were hugely popular in the late 1880s and early 1900s, but they were priced out of the market with the introduction of Henry Ford's Model T. The Model T, powered by gasoline, was much cheaper, widely available. So I didn't know we had electric cars back then. As electric cars have gained popularity, another emerging technology has been on everyone's mind: autonomous vehicles or self-driving cars. This phrase refers to cars that are able to navigate driving, turning, parking, and nearly every other task without the help of a human driver. You might think that autonomous vehicles are just a dream, but engineers have been working to turn them into a reality. This show car, the Smart EQ 412, dispenses with the steering wheel and pedals. The car drives itself. Passengers have room to relax in this car of the future as it drives them down the road. No steering wheel, or brakes, or pedals. Wow. Steering wheel. Wow. Testing. One of the key components of developing a self-driving car is testing. This often is to be done on a closed track or on public roads when the driver is in the vehicle. It will take many hours of testing before driverless cars are ready for the road. So, one of the most important roles when it comes to creating a self-driving car is that of the development engineer. This type of automobile engineer ensures that all of the car's components work together in harmony. This is especially key when creating a car that has no driver. So yeah, this is a really interesting book. I'm about, I don't know, about halfway through. So you can, if you want to, you can read it yourself and read the rest of it, and I'll show you how to get to it. You would just go to the Pontiac Public Library website, and then you would go to Youth, Bell Kids, and ebook K through 8. And then you just type in Engineering Wonders. Oh, but you can type. And it'll show you that picture of smart cars. Okay, so got some other things that'd be interesting to see is what the assembly lines used to look like. So let's take a look at how they used to look like. And we're going to go back to the same place that we went before. We're just going to type in cars this time though. And then there's some views, some videos, and there's a lot of interesting things. So there's a lot of interesting videos. So it shows you like electric cars, Geneva Motor Show. It shows you some pictures, annual car show celebrations. There's a lot of interesting videos about cars. And you can go, it's got like car factories that you can go through. So some current things that are going on, future designs, car shows all over the world. This one is on the development assembly line made cars, such as the Model T, available to millions of people. So that was very great.
As far as inventions are concerned, I mean, it's the greatest thing that's ever been invented. You know, it brought motoring to the masses, and to think the car's getting on for 100 years old and it still performs as well as it did the day it was born.
Engine he'd made himself. If anybody had waked up and looked out the window, he probably would have thought he was still dreaming. That night, history was made. The street was never the same again.
Century. Henry Ford's first car was the quadricycle, built round about the turn of the 19th, 20th century. In 1903, he'd moved on from that and he actually set up the Ford Motor Company. He'd previously worked for Cadillac, he'd worked for Edison, so he was getting all sorts of industrial ideas ahead of starting up his own company. This is a nice example. This is a 1914 Model T, one of the first to be built in Trafford Park in Manchester. And in the early days, they came across in crates of bits. And one of the ways that Henry Ford was able to make the cars just that bit cheaper is he insisted that the workers cut the crates up and use the wood for floorboards for the car, saving a few extra pennies.
Step forward, because now they could regulate the flow of work and keep it moving at a constant rate of speed. And the conveyor belts grew longer and more complex as they moved the work from place to place in the...
So, thought it'd also be interesting to take a look at how cars were made. $73.5 million cars rolled off the assembly line. So here's how they're being made today. This is Henry Ford. First car is 1913. lot of robots using the robot arms, attach things, solder things, painted by robots. Some parts people still have to do. Part of the car, what do you think that is? Engine and gearbox. Lift it up, put it into the car. Ooh, look at that. So, but that was kind of interesting. And now, how far they've come. And so now they also are using a lot of biofuels. So anyway, I thought, so those are some pretty good, interesting things to look at and consider now that we're looking forward to the Dream Cruise. That's going to be next weekend. In fact, Panic Public Library is going to be having a lot of activities on Friday. So I hope you join us then. This is Bonnie Balda wishing you a happy